What's happening now across the Niagara frontier? News stories, old stories, stuff you know about and stuff you'd never believe. It's the Niagara Hub Soapbox with Craig Avery.
About 2 years ago, Cris Johnson came and visited us, and because he did such a good job at hypnosis, it was 2 years gone by and we didn't even know. We thought he had an appointment next week, and it's been two years. But must have worked, man. I wake up, I'm 35 pounds less, and I don't.
Yeah, you look good. You look good.
Thank you. I feel good. But we just thought we'd have you come back and talk to us about, hypnosis is an amazing thing. Most people realize that. Or think it's some magic, but it's really all within themselves. You just help guide them into doing whatever it is they want to do or not do. And the neat part about it is that it goes hand in glove with the kind of hypnotist that people see on TV and turning people into chickens and things. It all is the same. It isn't two different sciences.
Correct.
Right? And,
Correct.
And I know you've been involved in show hypnosis as well as helping people stop habits and all that. So let's just start a little discussion, and we're hoping maybe you can come back more often and give us some success stories. And
love to.
So talk to us, well, first of all, your center. Give a plug for your place here.
Oh, thanks.
The name is?
The Niagara Falls Hypnosis Center. It's at 7820 Porter Road, Niagara Falls, New York. And the website is www.niagarafallshypnosiscenter.com. Really easy to find. It's clearly marked with a sign and everything. We've been there for several years now, and we help people stop smoking, reduce weight, anxiety, sports enhancements, all kinds of very useful things. But you mentioned the stage show, and I got started doing this stuff in stage shows, and I always do clean, ethical stage shows because I work a lot of high schools, a lot of colleges, corporate events. So I have to do a very clean show, very ethical show, and. Off camera, you were mentioning a classic hypnosis skit where the hypnotist will tell somebody, the person I'm touching, when you open up your eyes, you can see the entire audience, as naked, which is kind of like a dirty thing to do. But I like the idea of causing it's called a positive hallucination, where they see something that isn't there. And I like the idea of that. So my wife gave me the idea 10 years ago when I got into this stuff. She's like, well, why don't you have the entire audience change into cats? Oh, okay, cool. So my standard skit now is they open up their eyes, and the person you're touching, you see the entire audience is cats, and so they're or dogs. It's okay. It doesn't have to be. Yeah, it doesn't have to be. Because I always ask the person, what do you like better, cats, dogs, whatever? And I can see Craig that he doesn't like cats, but that's okay. So whatever animal they like. So, and what's cool about this is the first part of my stage show where we actually have somebody going into the audience, because it's breaking the fourth wall kind of thing. The person, you're going to go into the audience, you can see everybody changing into cats. You want to pet some cats? Yeah. Or dogs, whatever it is. Well, I'll say dogs from now on. So they go into the audience, they start petting dogs, and people are like, oh my goodness, because we're breaking the fourth wall. It's very powerful. So it's a very popular skit. People, they scratch them under the chin. Oh, the cute little dog, and it's just very, very funny, very clean. So I was doing a show for Purina Nestle. I'll even say the name of the company. The big Purina Nestle company. They had a small meeting in Fredonia a couple weeks ago. They booked my show, and I was doing the skit, and this one gentleman was doing a great job, and we're going through the show, and I said, the person I'm touching, open your eyes, and the entire audience changing into cats. He opens his eyes, and he looks freaked. And at first, he looked freaked out. At first, I thought, well, he must not like cats. I said, what's wrong? He goes, I feel like I'm in Comic-Con gone to hell. I mean, what do you mean? They're all wearing these cat outfits and they look ridiculous. So the thing about hypnosis is people will change how they interpret things in their mind. So he didn't see them as cats, he saw them as people with cat costumes on. So I'm like, okay, we'll go with it. I don't care. So he's like going up to people. I'm like, well, why don't you go up and critique their costumes? Well, this person. And he gets to this lady in the back, and I felt so bad. And I apologized to her off mic. I said, ma'am, I'm really sorry. And the guy is hypnotized, and he goes, she's the worst one. I go, why? He goes, she looks like my mother. I go, I'm sure your mother's a lovely woman. No, she's horrible. You haven't seen her, which I just busted out laughing, and I could barely continue. It was so funny. Wow. But the whole thing about stage hypnosis, one of the misconceptions, because a lot of this, this piece is about education, is can you make somebody do anything in stage hypnosis? And the fact is, no, you cannot. In a stage show, people know they're volunteering because it's voluntary for a stage show, and they're the kind of person that either they want to cut loose and have fun, lower their inhibitions, or they're the kind of person who secretly has a desire to. But it doesn't mean they're necessarily going to do what I do. And I tell my one-on-one clients this all the time. Ladies, I was at a stage show one time, 12 people up on stage, they're all hypnotized. And up to this point, because my show is very structured, up to this particular part of the show, lady was doing a great job. She's like in her 40s, she's having a great time. She was like on the beach and it's hot. She's driving an imaginary car, waving to her friends and all that great stuff. So she was clearly in hypnosis. And at one point I said to her, the person I'm touching, ma'am, is your husband in the audience? And she goes, yes, because when you're hypnotized, you can still hear everything. And I go, great, when I count to 3, you're going to sing to him like you're Marilyn Monroe and he's Jack Kennedy. Happy birthday, that kind of thing. So she burst out laughing and she said, that made me hypnotized, I'm not going to sing. Fine, no problem. The whole audience kind of went, whoa. I said, no, folks, you don't understand. This proves hypnosis does not control you. After that, she did everything I asked her to do. She's a bodybuilder, she's a dancer, she just didn't want to sing. Second story that kind of even strengthens this idea even more. I was doing a corporate show, and all the weird stories come from corporate shows. I was doing a corporate show, and I had 15 people across the stage, 300 people watching, and I get to a point in my show where I call it my 3-ring circus. This person, you're going to do this person, going to do that. Everybody's doing different things. So this person, you're going to forget your name. This person, you're going to believe that the entire audience is cats, and you're seeing everybody as cats, that whole thing. This person, you're going to believe that everybody is in the audience is holding $100 bills. Every napkin you see is a $100 bill, because it is at a banquet, and that you're invisible. So you can gather up all this money, no one will even see you. So we're doing 4 or 5 other things. It was really cool. So I open up their eyes, everybody, they all scatter like cockroaches. They're all doing their own things. So I go up to the one guy, and I go, what's your name? He goes, Phil. And he didn't forget his name. He didn't want to forget his name. He rejected that suggestion. He was in control. But he had a couple napkins stuffed in his pocket. I said, what's that all about? He goes, I found some money, even though it wasn't directed at him, which I thought was really, really cool. Then the other guy, he's got a big thing of money because that's what he was directed to do. The other lady, she's walking up to people, oh, you nice little kitty cat, and she's got some napkins sticking out of her pocket too. So what's that? She said, oh, I found some money. So even though it wasn't directed at those 2 people specifically, they heard money and they latched onto it.
They heard it.
So hypnosis does not control you, and I just went with it. To me, it made the show better. Yeah. I mean, I have a very structured show, but within that structure, people interpret things different ways. Like I'll have one person, the person I'm touching, whenever you go to speak, you'll only be speaking Martian or whatever. One guy, I said, I asked him a question, and this is his interpretation of Martian.
Right.
I'm like, okay, so it's always a lot of fun.
Well, we're expecting their interpretation. This is a different thing.
Because when, language very often is imprecise. And I try to make my language very precise for safety reasons. I had one guy asking me, will you let the audience give suggestions that people are hypnotized? No way, because they might hurt themselves. What if an audience member says, oh, you believe you're Superman, and then the guy does a face plant off of a chair. Yeah. So I try to have everything worded very precisely, so even though there's some different interpretations in their mind about how to do the skit, it's nothing that's going to hurt them. You're going to dance, but you're going to be clearly stay away from the edge of the stage. You're going to stay off the furniture. You're not going to, you're going to keep your clothes on, that kind of, because I do ethical shows, that kind of thing. So it's really a lot of fun. It's just a matter of, I think it takes more skill to do an ethical show. Sure. I remember my very first college stage show. It was a lot of fun, 200 kids in the audience, 20 people on the stage, we're having all this fun stuff. And after the show, somebody came up to me from the college newspaper, a student. He goes, can I interview you, Mr. Johnson? I'm like, yeah. So he asked me all the standard questions. How'd you get into this stuff? And I'm just, by rote, I'm just, giving my answers. And he goes, thank you for not being creepy. And I kind of did one of those dog things, what do you mean creepy? And he goes, oh, our last hypnotist here, he's really creepy. And he was, he's like around your age, over 21, yeah. And he was saying all these creepy things to the girls, and having some very provocative kind of skits and everything. It's very inappropriate. So I consider that if I die tomorrow and on my tombstone it says he was not creepy, I consider it a life well spent. Yeah.
But that's just a matter of interpretation,
Yeah, exactly.
Define creepy, right? And my first show that I saw was at college, and he did he showed everyone how to relax and get into a very relaxed state, and then those who were still there, he took them a little further, and there was 10 of us standing after this whole ordeal. And he said, now, you guys, whenever you hear the word hypnosis, I want you to stand up and clap. Okay, so we all sat down, and I remembered all this because you're aware of these things.
Yeah.
I thought, I'm not going to do that. And, well, sure enough, he said the word hypnosis, and not only they stood up, the other 10 people or so, I got on my chair and stood up and went, whoa, whoa, whoa. And he explained the same thing. That was your interpretation of you're standing up and you're supporting this, and they just said, well, exactly. I'm going to stand up. So that hooked me, because again, I knew, I said, well, when I hear the word hypnosis, I'm not going to stand up, because I wouldn't be the person to really stand up. But then as soon as I did, I had no control. I just stood up and... So anyway, knowing that it's that powerful and good, tell me some of the good stuff you've done around people are dying to quit smoking, to eat better, to work out every day, and
whatever.
It's
like a litany of different things.
Don't speed. So what are your...
It's a litany of different things. It's the big 3 are stop smoking, weight loss, and stress. Although I qualify that even though hypnosis is most known for those 3 things, most of the clients coming to see me, they come in to see me because they're coming from stress. But then in actuality, once we start questioning people, it's more anxiety. I mean, stress is like, oh God, the day's gone to hell and I need to, whatever. But anxiety is just feeling that rush, that fight or flight mechanism kicking in your body for no particular reason at all. That's like generalized anxiety. And it's something that is very different from stress. So even though it's, I'm not a medical professional, so I don't normally use the term anxiety, but it's weight loss, stress, and smoking, but within those facets, there's a lot of different minutiae of different things going on. Like some hypnotists say, well, I don't like working with weight loss or smoking. I like working with the interesting things. Well, you work with somebody with weight loss, smoking, or stress, you're going to hit upon most of those three things, because those three things are very often indicative of other things going on. Maybe the person was bullied as a kid, and now the smoking is their like relief to get away from whatever it is bothering them. Or maybe a woman or a man, it had a tough time growing up, like an overly harsh parent or something like that. In their interpretation, now food is their release, or whatever the case may be. Or maybe their form of stress is they got bit by a spider, and now every time they're around a spider or anything creepy crawly, they have that fight or flight response. So within those three different subsets are most of the things that I work with the most often. But on the ancillary, sports improvement, and athletics of almost any set, there's a lot going on inside the mind. Golfing. Well, I know because your son is a golfer, because I worked with him, and golfing is a very mental game. The way all the golfers that I've worked with and talked to and everything, they talk about the hardest part about the game is getting out of your own head. Getting into a positive resource state and that sort of thing. So there's that. There's phobias, or fears, I should say, because that's a medical term. And I don't do this, but there's also natural childbirth. They use hypnosis as anesthesia as opposed to like the drugs and everything. They have a natural childbirth, a pain-free childbirth. Something I just started working with recently was pain management, which is really rewarding. Because I had a lady coming in, and her testimonial videos on my website, Niagara Falls Hypnosis Center.com, and she came in and she could barely walk. And she's just all racked with pain and everything like that. And after the first session, she saw improvement. Second session, she's like ready to kiss my ring and sign a religion or start a religion. After the fourth session, she's like walking with her husband, and usually her husband's like running along ahead of her, and she's just like and she's like right there with him and everything, and she's just doing great. What is really powerful. Dental anxiety, that's a huge one. Now it's one I've only just started working with, because a lot of the times I found with people, if they have a fear or a phobia for something, they're so paralyzed by that fear that they're reluctant to work with the fear to try to get rid of it. They're afraid of they're afraid of being afraid. So a lot of the times they get in their own way about seeking help for it. But when they do come in, it's so rewarding, because there's nothing more rewarding for me as a hypnotist than by having somebody have this fear, having this anxiety, and then let it go. Because nobody deserves to live like that. To hold on to that negativity.
Can they keep it gone, or do they have to recharge, or what?
The recharge. Basically, when I work with somebody I use stress as an example, code word for anxiety, that I attack it from two different tracks of thinking. The first track is I teach them in every session before we do the actual formal trance, close your eyes and relaxing and all that stuff, that I teach them I teach them a lot of different methodologies for relieving stress. Deep breathing, body relaxation, mental vacations, all kinds of really cool stuff. And then the second part, the actual hypnotic part of the session, the idea is to go back in time on their timeline, find out whatever it was that caused them to become a smoker, or not even become a smoker, because a lot of the times that's a childhood, they want to fit in with their friends and rebel or whatever. But the thing that caused them to become an emotional smoker, or a thing that caused them to become an emotional leader, or have those anxiety or panic attacks, whatever the case may be. And basically, because part of their mind is living in the past. Like the past is always there. Like it gets when we re-experience something like a strong memory, we see it, we feel it, we hear it. Part of our brain is lit up as though we're actually experiencing it again. So in essence, we're time traveling in a way. So we go back in time, air quotes, and we encourage them to release whatever it is they're holding on to, the grief or their anger or their grudges or their fear, whatever it is, and let it go and dissolve it. And once that happens, all the other dominoes fall down, and then they don't need me anymore, which is not necessarily the best business model in the world. But I'm looking to help people. I'm not just after it for the money.
You can give them a little subliminal thing saying, "Call me in a year," like you did with me. "Call me in 2 years if I don't come back." What about past lives?
Oh, past lives is one of those things where it's a fascinating subset of hypnosis. And it's one of those things where if you say you believe in past lives, then half the audience is alienated. And if you say you don't believe, half the audience is alienated. So I will say that I know I have worked with people who have said they've had past lives. I've done some sessions. I have no idea if it's real or not, but they came to me because I want this to happen for reasons that are for confidentiality. I can't say why, but I believe a past life is going to help me get past whatever it is I want to get past. So using hypnotic techniques, if they interpret it as a past life, great. If it really is a past life and I just don't know, you're fine too. But it's fascinating. I've done about half a dozen of them so far, and they're really fascinating sessions. Whether it's real or not, I can't answer that. I just know that the sessions themselves are very interesting to me as a practitioner, and my clients, they get a lot of really cool juice out of it, a lot of education. I will speak, I can speak about this in a general sense because I'm not going to give her name or her age or her nationality or anything, but one client came to me. She was referred to her by a medium, which is a whole other subset of beliefs and everything. I don't even want to touch that. But her medium said, you need to get a past life to let this go. So this young lady comes to see me. And I said, well, what's your problem? What are you coming to see me for? And she goes, well, every time I get married, and I didn't even have to hear anything after that. I mean, listen to that, So basically what it was is she felt a strong sense of her identity, her whole sense of self-worth was attached to the idea of being in a relationship and pleasing the guy, that kind of thing. So we did a past life regression, and whatever her experience was, it was. And she imagined herself, and her age was right, where she imagined herself back in very early 1900s New York City. She's there, and she's like a high-powered, take no prisoners, balls to the wall, go get them, lawyer type. And we went through all the stuff, and what about this, and what about that, tell me about your surroundings and everything. And after she emerged from hypnosis, I go, so what'd you, cause I had no idea. It was my first past life regression. I said, well, what'd you get out of that? And I already had a pretty good idea based on what she said. But I wanted to see if she made the connection. She goes, well, in her eyes are looking down, so I could tell she was feeling it because eye accessing cues. If the person is looking up and they're talking to you, they're processing things visually, side to side, usually auditorily, they're hearing something in their mind. Down, they tend to be a whole other video series here. And if they're looking down, they're kind of feeling it. So she's looking down. And she says, well, I feel like that past life experience told me that I need to have my own sense of self-worth and not have to rely on anybody else, and so on and so forth. She got out of it exactly this enlightenment. She got out of that session exactly what she got out of it. Now, was it a true past life, or was it her subconscious mind, kind of like dreams, where we're just creating things? I don't know. Yeah. But she got out of it exactly what she wanted to. I helped her, and I was happy to do so. So how's that for equivocating?
I love it. We do actually have a studio audience, but they're naked and they're holding cats, so I can't show them. But do you have any questions? Do you have any questions? No, and the rest of our group left. They got scared away when you told them that you brought some lady back into the 1900s. But there's so much, actually, to plug someone we don't even know, but Brian Weiss is a guy that writes about, he's a hypnotist in Miami, has done lots of research on the past life regression.
I've heard the name.
And oh my God, I've read 2 or 3 of his books, and it's just amazing how
it's fascinating stuff.
And then you're playing God, because that one part, he actually had a woman tell the story about her father was killed by gladiators or something, and it was a terrible thing. And then a year later, this guy comes in, and he was the father. He tells this story, and the guy's going, I've heard this story before. So he goes back to his files, and
I've heard some of these things verified.
Finds this, and now he's playing God, and he goes, do I introduce these people again? One might be a girl, one might be a guy. Before it was her brother, and somehow, I can't remember, he did get them together, and they got married again. So it was pretty wild. But that was her father in this life, and it was just so amazing. And then they did other hypnotic things and discovered that, holy cow, this is pretty wild. So there's
I've heard stories too where they've been able to verify, air quotes, the authenticity of a past life. Cool. Which I find fascinating. And I still don't know if I believe it or not, but all I know is that if the person comes in and that's what they want to get help, I'll give it to them.
Well, that's a good time to break, because if we don't come back to you, you'll have to just come back in another life, and you'll see how this comes out. So let's stay in touch. Let's talk about, the next time you come in, we'll talk about some of the things that have happened since you've been here. Yeah. We may even have some, I know we've got a couple people that have come to us and said we want to stop smoking, and we'll see how they do in that thing. And I want to gain 40 pounds, so if you could help me do that.
Yeah, it's the hypnosis,
I'm going over to the Como
diet,
to see if I can talk to someone over there first. But anyway, did we get everything for this first quick session?
Yeah, I think it's fine.
We talked, anyway, good. Glad you made it, man.
Yeah, it's been fun.